Hi, my name is David McLaughlin, and this video is a beginner's guide to setting up stock charts in thinkorswim. The takeaways you'll get from this video are how to customize your charts, how to create multiple chart grids, how to load studies on your charts, and how to save your study sets, styles, and grids. This demonstration is for customizing charts in thinkorswim desktop trading platform. So even though there are many other trading platforms out there, this is the one that I'm the most familiar with. And thinkorswim is owned by TD Ameritrade, so you will have to open an account with TD Ameritrade before you can download the thinkorswim trading platform. If you don't already have an account, go to www.tdameritrade.com, open your account, and then download the thinkorswim desktop platform. When you log into thinkorswim, you have a choice to trade with paper money or live trading. For beginners, I recommend starting out with paper trading. Don't worry, you will be able to switch back between live trading and paper trading anytime. So let's get started. Okay, you should be logged into your thinkorswim now, and you'll come up to your home screen. And I'm not going to get into all the details, but you can set up your home screen to look like whatever you want. Basically, you can go down into these different menus and change your settings. I got it set up for heat maps at the bottom. Here's some settings. You can change it up. I've got, you can go here and pull different watch lists up that you want. I got stocks I'm watching, basically scrolling across the bottom. I've got the SPX showing the chart. And like I said, I got a heat map down here on the S&P 100 and a heat map on the NASDAQ 100. So let's get into the charts. So you're going to want to go up to this menu across the top here, and where it says charts, select charts. And from there, let's go ahead and put a ticker symbol in this box on the left top corner. So we're going to start off by putting in Microsoft, MSFT. You'll see there's a drop-down menu. You can either hit Enter, or you can just select Microsoft. From there, we're going to go in to Setup in the top right corner. There's a gearbox. Select that gearbox. Application Settings. On the left side, you're going to come down to where it says Look and Feel. On this screen here, you can change your color scheme at the top right from dark, look at the preview down below, and light, like I have mine set on currently. There's a couple other settings here you can play around with and see what you'd like to have. Also, you can change your font size. And there's also a thing here for spacing. From there, we're going to hit Apply Settings. And if you notice up here in the top left corner, it shows the ticker symbol, and it also shows you the time frame that the chart is set up for. This is set up for, it's a daily chart over a 1-year time period. So what that means is from the beginning of the left side of this chart going to the right side of the chart, that is a 1-year time frame. And each one of these bars on this time frame represent 1 day of data. And if you come down in the lower volume subgraph, each one of these subgraph volume bars represent 1 day of volume. So if you were to put your cursor at the top of the bar and look over here to the right-hand side, over here, you will see that it gives you how much volume traded on that 1 day. So from there, I would like to show you how you can change your time frame. So if you go to this top menu bar where I have it currently set at light blue, when you hover over this box, it'll show you time frame setup. Click on that. Now you can come down and you can have you will have default time frames. So for example, say you want to go to a weekly chart. If you go up here and look at the left corner, it says 5-year weekly chart. I just selected it. So this whole page is 5 years of data. Each bar equals 1 week of data. Each bar in the volume subgraph represents 1 week of volume, similar to the daily chart we looked at earlier. You can also go back into the time frame setup, and you can go down and select Custom List. Come over and select Add Time Frame. Say you want to have a 1-day aggregation period and you'd like to change that to a weekly aggregation. And from 1 year you want to look back over 10 years. You would select your settings, and from there you would hit Add. At the top of the screen, let me show you where it says aggregation type is on time. You could also use tick bars if you choose to work off tick bars. I'll get in more detail later about tick bars, but for now I'm just going to stick to the time frame. That's the most common. You will select Add. And typically if you come over to the left-hand side, these are going to be all your time frames that you have loaded. So if you notice, I've got quite a few time frames. I've made a lot of custom time frames. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see here I already had a 10-year weekly, so it's showing up right here. But typically when you create a new time frame, if it don't already exist in your list, it'll come up at the bottom of your screen. And all you would do is say you would highlight it, and you can go over here and hit. There's a Move Up button. You can take it up or you can take it down and put it in any order in the list. So I typically, if you notice, I try to keep mine orderly. So I got month, 20-year months, 10-year months, 5-year months. And I got 20-year weeks, 10-year weeks, 5-year weeks. 5-year 2-day, 20-year 1-day, 10-year 1-day, 5-year 1-day. So you get the point. All the way down into smaller time frames. I even have a few tick charts, which, like I said, we'll talk about those later in another video, as a matter of fact. So from there, you would have selected your time frame. I'm going to go back to the 1-year daily for now for the illustration purposes and training. Hit Apply. Hit OK. Now, I actually need to go. It didn't actually set because I was actually in there creating custom time frames. So you actually need to, you'll have to actually, once you create the time frame, you do need to go back in and select that time frame again, just like that. So now if you look up here, there's a D for daily. If you come over to the top left corner, it says 1 year daily, 1 day, 1 year. So again, 1 year from the left to the right of data, each bar representing 1 day. So now I'd like to go into the chart settings and start going over some of the features. One of the features I want to show you is there's another way you can set your time frames through the settings page. So we're going to go over here and you're going to hover over this little gear. It's going to show you down below at chart settings. Open that up. If you go over to favorite time frames, you get the same page as you had before. You can select different time frames here. You can edit them. Say you want to edit that to be something different. You can go to intraday, 1 day, 1 minute. You can change that to 3 minutes, 5 minutes. If you want to see it, a 5-minute chart over 5 days, you just go in here and you change this to whatever you want your chart's time frame and aggregation periods to be set at. For now, I'm going to cancel out of here. I just want to show you there's another way to get to your chart's time frame setting. For now, we're going to start all the way to the left tab at General. And in General, we're going to make sure that Show Orders is selected. Show Alerts are selected. And basically what these two are is, if you place an order, it'll actually show your order up here on the screen at the price you selected your order at. And it'll remain there until you close the order out. So anytime you're scanning through your charts, if there's any order placed on that particular ticker, it will show up here on the chart. And just for a quick example, I'm going to get out of here for 1 second, and I'm going to show you McDonald's, MCD. You don't have to type this in. If you look here, I have an order, a limit order, to sell my options on McDonald's. And it'll resume on this screen until it's sold. Same thing if I had an order to buy, it would show it as well. Let's go back. I'm going to go back here to Microsoft. And let's go back into settings. So showing alerts. So what that would be is, and then I'll show you in a later video how to set your alerts. But if you want to set an alert you when a certain stock got to a certain price, you could have that show on your screen, your chart screen, where your alerts are set. If you don't want them to show, you can just put do not show. Or you also can just show arrows only. I typically leave mine on show alerts. Leave your highlight studies on hover checked, and your synchronized crosshair position checked, and I'll show you how that works. On the right hand side under display, it says show high-low bubbles. If you look over here to the right, you'll see the high bubble displayed. And basically what it's showing is the highest bar on this chart at this time, and the price of the high of that bar is $232.86. If you were to turn that check off, hit apply, that bubble will go away. If you turn the check on, hit apply, you can see it's back on. Same thing as the low bubble. The low bubble on the screen is also going to be shown whenever that check mark's on, and you can see that here at the middle of the screen. So if you don't want that on there, you just have to uncheck it. As far as the show symbol logo, if you look over to the left, there's the logo of Microsoft. So if you don't want that on your screen, you just have to uncheck that. If you come down below the bubbles, it also shows last price bubble. That's this bubble on the right. So the last price, closing price of the last bar on this chart was at $200.39. If you don't want that highlighted, you can unclick that, apply it, and that'll go away. If you want it to be there, just check it and apply it, and it'll remain. So show price subgraph. The price subgraph is what you're looking at right here, where the bar chart is. That is your price subgraph. If you turn that off, uncheck that, that gets rid of that. Apply and it's gone. Now all you got is the volume subgraph. So we're going to put that back on and hit apply. Just leave that checked. Over that volume, what that does is that puts the volume overlapping up on your chart. I'll show you here real quick, like that. Some people like that. I'm going to uncheck it for now. Hit OK. Price axis. I'm going to uncheck these, but basically all this is, if you want the screen to automatically scale to any of these items. So for example, you want to, every time you go into a chart, you want it to fit the highest and the lowest bar on that whole screen. It'll automatically do that for you. Or if you want to fit any orders that you have or any alerts. That's what this basically is set for. I leave this blank. I particularly just like to zoom in and out as I need to. Okay, I'm going to show you the expansion area. We've got two areas of expansion. You have the percent up, the percent down on the price axis. If you go over here to the time axis tab, you also have an expansion area for number of bars to the right. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to cancel out of here. So you see how the bars on the chart get pretty close to the top of the screen, and the bars at the bottom as well get just as close to the bottom. And then the bar on the right side of the chart, the last bar, is right up against the edge of that subgraph. So we're going to go in here to settings and price axis, and we're going to click on this arrow, and you can choose one of these choices, or you can actually type in whatever number you want. And then you could do time axis. So say you want 10 bars. Okay, hit apply. So basically what happened was you have the spacing as if 10 bars were there to the right of the chart, and then I ended up putting 15% on the top and 10% on the bottom. Just go back here to settings, go to price axis. So this is the percentage above and this is the percentage below. I just changed both of those to 20, hit apply, hit OK. You see I brought this bar up just a little bit higher so it was out of these numbers. So that's how you adjust your expansion. Why would you need that? Well, when you start getting into studies and drawings on your screen, you'll need some room to make sure you can see everything. So back to price axis. Now, this, if you want to use this once in a while, you can also do show price as percentage, hit apply. And basically what that does, it starts out as 0% at the far left side of your chart. The first bar on that chart is 0%. And then if you look, it gives you the percentage from there. So the stock went down here approximately 4%. Came back up here to the high at 232.86 at about 63.94%. So this is a 1-year chart. So the total chart is 1 year. So if you go over here, in 1 year, we've had an increase of 40% on Microsoft. So let's go back to settings. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off as percentage. Hit apply. So that way it goes back to dollar value frames. You can also change your time here as well. You don't have to go over to favorite times, or I also showed you that you can go in here where it says time frame setup. So what I just did is they have it in several locations where you can make some various changes. So I went to time axis. I just changed it from a 1-year chart to a 10-year chart. Now I'm going to go back to 1 year. Now one feature I do like to use inside of the time axis is the keep time zoom. And basically what that does, hit apply and OK on that. So let's say you were going to go through your watch list and you kind of wanted to zoom in and get a good picture of the last couple of weeks of trading on the charts. And you could just switch back and forth to each of your stocks in your watch list, and it would not fit to the whole screen. It'll just keep the same zoom that you were zoomed in on or zoomed out on, however you want to look at it. So under time axis, the one feature I like to use is this scale, keep time zoom. This is a preference of mine. It's not for everybody, but if you remember back here under time axis, I mentioned to you about automatically fitting all the studies and patterns and what have you. But one of the things I like to do is I like to keep my time zoom, and I'll apply that and hit OK. So for example, if I'm zoomed in to my chart to see a certain area, maybe I'm just looking back a month or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, then I can go up here and quickly change to another chart like McDonald's, And I keep the same time zoom. Microsoft. So that's under settings, time axis, and that's keep time zoom. So if you don't want that, just go ahead and uncheck it, hit apply, and it won't keep that active. So the other settings on this page I want to discuss is the rollover lines, the expiration Friday, and the year marking lines. The rollover lines are, if you're trading futures, there's certain dates that you want to roll over your futures. So that's when you would want to use that. So let's uncheck that for now. If you're an options trader and you want to show all your option Friday expiration days, then you would have this checked as well. It would just basically, if you look over here to the right, you see these lines with the date on them? They're representing expiration Friday. But I'm going to take that off, and this show year marking lines. So we're going to leave that on. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Apply, hit OK. We're going to go up here to time frame setup, and we're going to go down to a daily chart over the last 5 years. We're going to zoom out so we can fit it on the screen. Now you look, there's a very faint line at each year. You got 2017, 2018, and 2019. When you're looking at a larger time frame on your charts, and it makes it easy to find out where the year began and where the year ended. So let's go back up to settings. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that on for right now. We'd already talked about favorite time frames earlier, so I'm going to go beyond that. So this is your appearance of your chart. So this is where you select the chart type you'd like. So if you go under this drop-down menu under candle, chart type. So for instance, there's your bar chart. This is a little preview of what it looks like. Hit apply, hit OK. Let's zoom in a little bit. So as you can see, it just connects all the closing bars with lines. Let's go back into settings, back into appearance, and let's change that to Heikin-Ashi. Apply, OK. Now, Heikin-Ashi bars do not start at the beginning of a trading day and ending of a trading day. There's a different type of calculation to do, and I'm not going to get into the explanation now. That'll be in a later video. But as you can tell, they look a lot different. So I just wanted to show you what that looked like. We're going to go back in here. The ones that are more common are the bar chart and candle chart. So here's the bar chart. Hit apply. Hit OK. And just for a quick reference, the left side where the line sticks out is the opening of the bar, which in this case is a daily bar, so it would be the opening of the trading day. And the line on the right of the bar is the close of the bar. That would be the closing price at the end of one trading day in this particular case. So each one of these have a bar that sticks out to the left and one that sticks out to the right, and that's what they represent. The wick that sticks out below or above, that's just the distance and price throughout the day that the price of the stock had changed, went down below the open or above the close. And let's go back to appearance. Let's look at the candle chart. Apply that. Okay. So if you notice, the candle chart for days, in this case it's days because we're looking at a daily chart, bars that open higher and close lower are solid red. All bars that open higher and close lower are solid red. All bars that open lower and close higher from the opening of their day, open at the bottom, closed at the top. Those are open bars and they're green. that is so that you can get a quick visual of the chart and can tell what were the down days and what were the up days. If we go back to appearance and we go under the drop down menu and we grab candle trend, it's slightly different than the previous candles. We hit OK. So the difference here is not all bars that open higher and close lower are now red. If you notice, some are actually green solid bars. And what that means is that that bar, not only did it open higher and close lower, but it also opened higher than the previous bar. Because it opened higher than the previous bar, that makes it a green bar. So all bars that open higher than the previous bar will always be green. But the ones that are solid green mean they still closed lower than they opened at that bar. The ones that are open, the bars that are open, those still represent bars that open lower and closed higher than the opening. So that's your appearance. The other thing you can change in your appearance, it has a button that shows wicks. I'm going to apply that and show you what I'm talking about. If you look over here to the left, it doesn't show any of the wicks on the candles. But if you leave that checked, which I'm going to, we're going to apply that. You'll see it put the wicks back on. The wicks give you an idea of how much the price movement was during that bar. Even though it opened and closed at some point, it still had other movement up or down throughout the time frame of that bar, which in this case is a daily time frame. You can select cursor to none, horizontal, vertical, crosshair. So what that is, if we come out here, hit apply, OK. Do you see the crosshair? You can put that up against the bottom of a bar and look to the right, and you'll see over here the bubble will give you the price of that opening of that bar, and it'll give you the price of the closing of that bar. Anywhere that you want to pick on the chart gives you that price. And you can, and for the vertical line, it shows you the date of the bar. If you look down at the bottom, it says right now it says on 5/4 bar, that was the date of that bar. And you can also verify that by going to the top of your screen, and right next to the D here for daily bar, it gives you the actual dates of each one of these bars as you put the line across the bar. So let's go back to appearance. So you can put that on none, or you can put that on crosshair, whatever you choose. And you can also change the color of it. Let's say you'd like your crosshair to be dark green. Or maybe you just want a vertical crosshair. Hit apply. Hit OK. If you notice now we just have vertical and it's green. So you can adjust that as you would like. Let's go ahead and turn that off since I'm using my cursor. The grid itself, I don't particularly use a grid, but you know, that's your choice. That grid is what you see, these little dotted squares in the background. Let's look at that again. If you look, there's some very faint grids drawn in the back of this screen here. Quickly have that off. Take that off, we'll apply. Now the grid's gone. Now for the background color, right now, if you notice, mine's white, so you didn't notice it until I cursored over it. We can turn that, you can go into more, and you can pick any color you like. You want your background to be yellow, hit OK. This is a preview of what it looks like. Hit apply. There's your background. So we'll go back to appearance and background. You can use different shades. There's light blue. I had mine set to white for this demonstration. I think that was the default actually. I'll put it like that. Apply. OK. There you go. So back to settings. Back to appearance. From there we're going to go to equities. Now equities would be like your Microsoft, Apple, you know, all your company corporate stocks.
So you can set your price type to whether you want last, bid, ask, or mark. I typically leave mine on last. That's pretty standard. Adjust for dividends. I think special is just a default. And then show corporate action. This is one thing I like to leave on, and I'll show you why. If you hit apply, hit OK. Down here, if you hold your cursor over the light bulb and the blue icon with light bulb, it shows you, this would be a past earnings call. So it shows you what the earnings estimate was, the actual, the date, the time, after market, standard time, sometimes they're before market. If we come over here, we look at this one. It tells you exactly when the conference call was. The other thing you might want to use for reference would be if you want to see what the dividends paid. It also gives you the date and the date paid out the dividend. And if you notice right above the blue icon with the light bulb, this is actually the icon that's showing for the earnings conference call that says it happened on 4/29 at 4:30. So I typically like to leave these on because I think it's important to know when earnings is coming out. So when the next earnings starts to show up in your screen, you can look at that and see, when that is, in case you want to be out of the stock, the equity, before earnings, or maybe you want to get into equity before earnings because you feel like it's going to go up or something. But it's a good reference. I think it's very important to know when the earnings is, especially if you're an options trader. So we go back to settings, back to equities. The volume subgraph, that is the one that I showed you earlier. It's at the bottom of your screen. You can turn that off just by unchecking that and hitting apply. Now you don't have a volume subgraph no longer. If you want that, just check that and put it back, apply that, and it goes right back on again. As you can see, the volume's back on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that for now. Hit apply. And then down here, under time axis here, you have show extended trading session and highlight extended trading session hours. You would want to use that if you were looking to see what happened overnight. So you would hit OK. So let's say if you went into your time frame and you want to go down to a lower time frame, an intraday time frame. Now, if you notice, when I selected on a 15-minute time frame over a course of 15 days, what it shows you, everything in the light gray is your regular trading hours. Everything in the dark gray is your after hours. Your overnight trading is going on after hours. It doesn't show up on the daily chart. It only shows up on the intraday charts. But if you were going to do a day trade and you wanted to see what this stock was doing overnight, then you would want to have this on before the market opened so you could do an analysis on that. So we're going to go back to equities. I typically leave it off myself unless I am actually going to look at some trades at the start of the opening and I want to actually see what it's doing, what it's done overnight. We're going to go ahead and so let's go ahead and just turn this off for now since we're not using it. And then there's another button right here called Start Aggregations at Market Open. Let's check that, hit apply. And basically what that does is it makes sure that your first bar starts at the open of the market. So on Eastern time, it'd be 9:30 a.m. So for example, there's 6.5 hours in a trading day. If you were on a 2-hour chart, a 2-hour chart does not divide into 6.5 hours evenly, so it would actually start the bar at 9 o'clock a.m. on Eastern time and close it at 4. The last bar on a 2-hour chart would be at 4 o'clock. In this case, we're on a 15-minute chart. 15 minutes divides into 6.5 hours equally, so your first bar of the day is 9:30 a.m. And your last bar of the day will be, it starts at 3:45, and then obviously it's a 15-minute bar, so it ends at 4 p.m. So that's a preference. If you just want to make sure the market's always, the first bar of every day starts right at 9:30, then you want to have that box checked. Where right here, where it says start aggregation at market open. There are going to be times when you're using different studies, especially custom studies, that could cause a problem. You might have to uncheck that or check that depending on the problem you're having. But it's very seldom you'll ever notice a difference. For options, so if you're an options trader, you have the same situation over here where you have extended hours, highlight extended hours. It works the same way as the equities. Same thing with start aggregation at market open. This would be if you're using if you're just having a chart of your an options contract that you want to put up here on your bar chart. And then open interest and the theo price. So basically what that would be is that's the theoretical price of the current option, and that is open interest means number of option contracts that are currently been opened and been traded, that are open and have not been closed yet. And again, you have the volume subgraph. And then same thing with futures. You have the same thing. You could show the volume subgraph. Let's hit apply. If we had a futures up here, okay, I'll go over here and we'll pull up a futures chart. Go under futures. Let's just pull up one real quick. E-mini Russell. Let's go back to settings. Futures. Here's your highlighted extended hours. Hit apply. Again, you can see, if you look right here, these are the actual market hours. This is the extended hours in the gray. Also, if you notice down here, I put the subgraph because I have show volume subgraph right here. Hit apply, and that goes away if you uncheck it. Futures trade during extended hours, so if you're a futures trader, you might want to have that on. You can have that on futures without having to turn it on equities. You can leave that on all the time, and every time you're looking at your futures charts, that would already be showing you the extended hours during the trading session. And Forex, basically you only have a few choices here. For Forex, they got bid, ask, mark. That's and last price. And then also the same with the volume subgraph if you want to have that on or off if you're a Forex trader. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to turn this back to Microsoft. Now we're back into equities. In order to see the corporate actions, like the earnings dates and the dividends, you have to be in at least a daily time frame. You can't do it on intraday. Let's go back to 1 year daily. So there they are. The other thing you can do, if you go into your settings, and you go back to time axis, you can, if you check or uncheck it, you can check this to expand to fit the corporate actions. And we already have 10 bars to the right, apply. So basically what that does is it expands it so the next corporate action starts to show. But it looks like it's a question mark, so I don't think that's a final determined date yet. But that just gives you an idea if you want to be able to see the approximate date of the next earnings if it hasn't started to show on the screen yet. So there you have it. we went through all the tabs at the top of here and the majority of the most common settings that you're going to use. If there's anything I didn't cover, what you can do is if you go up to this menu right here and look here where it says Education and Learning Center. Click on Education. And if you look here, you got Education. That's through Ameritrade, and you have Learning Center. And this is about the thinkorswim. So like here, let's say you want to know how to turn on corporate actions. Well, you could go in here in the search and type in corporate actions, and it'll bring up all the information available about the corporate actions. And you can go through that and see, you know, how you, and it will explain to you how to turn those on and off if you don't remember. And then, for example, education, you can go in here and they've got a lot of educational stuff. If you want to learn about stocks, if you look here, they got some little training educational courses you can take. Here's one on options. You can even come down here and you can go through and, you know, there's all types of things. You know, what's your level of learning? Are you a beginner? You know, what types do you want? You want, you know, articles, courses, you want videos. And you can go through and learn about options that way. And you have the same thing with mutual funds, ETFs, futures, Forex. So this is all available under education. I use the Learning Center quite a bit. Whenever I'm trying to figure something out on thinkorswim, I'm not sure about something I don't remember, I just go in here and I search and try. So we're going to go back to charts. So as of right now, we basically learned how to create a chart. We learned how to set our settings for our charts, for the type of bars we'd like to have our chart style. We also learned how to put a ticker symbol in here in the box and bring up a ticker that we want to look at. We also looked at how to discover what we have our chart set to, like 1 year, 1 day charts. We also learned how to go over here and change that to different time intervals. We also learned how to expand our chart up, down, and to the right side to give us a little bit of room there to have drawings and studies. And we talked about the corporate actions. Down here is your zoom button. If your chart is zoomed in, there's a bar you can drag on the bottom of the screen to keep it zoomed in, but yet you want to go back and look further back in time while it's zoomed in. You can also select this little button here and you can turn your cursor on to crosshairs or vertical or horizontal, just like you did in your settings. It's right here at the bottom of your screen. You can turn that back off if you'd like. We also talked about the logo. You can turn that off if you don't like that being on your screen. And we talked about the high and low bubbles, which the low bubble is not showing at the moment because I'm zoomed in. But here's the low bubble. If we zoom all the way out, it'll show it to you on this 1 year chart. That's the low this year, and that's the high. We also talked about the bubble to the right that shows you the closing price of the last bar. It highlights it with red. Okay, now that we have our chart on the screen, I'm going to show you how to add studies to your chart. So you're going to go up here in the light blue menu area, and when you hover over this little bottle, you're going to see where it says Edit Studies. You want to click on that. If you notice right now on the right-hand side, we have no studies there at all. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add what they call an upper study. So if you come over here, you're going to see studies are highlighted, and there's all kinds of studies available from thinkorswim for your use. So we're going to go up here and we're going to type in simple. And I'm going to select the simple moving average. I'm going to add to selected. So I highlighted it, clicked add selected, and it moved it right over here under price. That's the top part of your chart subgraph. Now what I want to show you is once you load that, we're going to hit apply. It's going to put it on your chart subgraph. So if you look, you got this green line. Okay, that was a 9-period simple moving average. And how do I know that? Well, let's go back into studies, simple moving average. If you notice, it says 9 and close. If you come over here to this little gearbox, this is your settings for that study. So right now, it's going to take a 9. The length is 9-period average of the closing 9 bars. In our case, they're daily bars because we got to set on a daily chart. If it was an hourly chart, it'd be 9 hours of bars, 9 hourly bars. If it was a weekly chart, it'd be 9 weeks, which is 9 bars, weekly bars. And the close of each bar over those 9 last weeks, it takes an average, and it plots that line on the screen. And down here, it gives you your plots, as you can see. And you can change the color. You got all kinds of colors here you can select from. You got colors over here. We can make it blue. You got your width of your line. How thick do you want the line to be? What type of line do you want it? Do you want it to be dashes? Do you want it to be a solid line? And drawing as a curved line, I think that's the only really option for having this in the upper study right now. And then up signal, down signal. If enabled, displays an up arrow every time the price crosses above the simple moving average. So let's go ahead, same thing with the down signal. We're going to go ahead and hit OK, apply. So right now what we have is we have the blue 9-period simple moving average. So it's taking the 9, going back 9 bars, taking the average of each closing price of the last 9 bars. So now let's go back into Edit Studies, and let's add a lower study. This time we're going to load the RSI, Relative Strength Index study. We're going to highlight it, hit Add Selected. You notice it automatically put it in this lower section. We're going to hit Apply, hit OK, and this is how it came into our chart as a default setting. As you can see, it's got a line here, a purple line at 70, and whenever this line crossed over, it looks like it turned it red. And then down here, there's a bottom line set at 30. Well, you can either go back into your Edit Studies, or we can actually right-click right on this. It'll come up and say Edit Study RSI. Open that up, and that takes you straight to the settings. Same thing as what we did when we went up here, and we said Edit Studies, but then we came over and clicked on this little gearbox. Same exact page. So right now, our RSI is set to 14-period length. The overbought line is at 70. The oversold line is at 30. It's calculating everything off the close of the price. And the average type is set defaults to Wilders, but there's your simple, exponential, weighted. We'll go back to simple. Don't put a whole lot of weight into these. I haven't really seen any difference as far as what they're telling you. So we'll go to simple to keep it simple. Also, you notice up here in the right-hand corner, this has got a check mark that says Show Study. Well, if you didn't want your study to show, all you have to do is uncheck that, and I'll show you that here shortly. Now at the bottom on the RSI, you have the line we saw, the normal line, which was black at the time. We can make that purple. You have your overbought and oversold line colors. So let's go ahead and hit OK, hit Apply, and hit OK again. So if you look down here, we changed this line to a purple color. And basically RSI just tells you whenever it starts to get above the 70% line, it's starting to become overbought. Whenever it's getting down below the 30% line, it's starting to get oversold. That's what the purpose of this indicator is. So now let's go back in and edit our studies. And we're going to add another study. Let's add another upper study. We're going to go to the Keltner channels. We're going to highlight the Keltner channel, hit add selected, apply. Okay. So if you notice, there's 3 more lines added to your chart. These are the Keltner channel lines. One is the lower line represents the lower side of the average true range, and the upper line is the upper side of the average true range, and the center line is the center of those 2 lines. So let's go into settings. Let's say we want to go into simple moving average, back into the settings, and we did not want that to show. We would unclick that, hit OK, apply. OK. So now if you notice that blue simple moving 9-period simple moving average is gone. It's not showed up. Now let's go back into our edit studies. Let's go into the Keltner channels. So they're using a 1.5 factor for the average true range at a length of 20. Let's say we wanted to shorten that calculation period down to a length of 14 bars instead of 20 bars. It's the same principle as what we did with the 9-period moving average. It's going to go back 14 days, or 14 bars, but 14 days in our case because we're using a daily chart. It's going to take the average closing price using the simple moving average. Same thing with the average true range. It looks at the average true range of the price over a 14-period time, and it uses a simple moving average to calculate it. We're going to hit OK, apply, and OK again. So basically what it's saying is, let's take this last bar right here, and if it went back 14 bars and calculated the simple moving average, that would be this green line. If it calculated the average true range of all these bars over 14 bars, this is the upper line of that 1.5 times that average true range it calculated. 1.5 times. This lower line is 1.5 times the average true range plotted out over the period of, calculated over a period of 14 bars. So no matter where you go back here, if you come back to this bar right here, say, these lines are all calculated based off the last 14 bars. And that goes for each bar as we go along here. That's why you'll notice that the average true range actually starts to come a little closer together in this area here where you have less range in the price. But when the range of the price starts to expand and it starts moving out, and it starts also coming down and moving this way, well, if you notice, your average true range times 1.5 is expanding. So this line is getting further away from the center. So the range is starting to expand because there's a lot more movement in the stock. So that's how that works. Now if we want to add a study, another lower study, we can add many lower studies. Say we want to go in here and we want to add the TTM squeeze. So I'll type in TTM. I'll click on the squeeze. I'll hit add selected. See how that put that right here below the RSI. We're going to hit apply, hit OK. So now we added another lower indicator called the TTM squeeze. So we have 2 lower indicators, and we technically have 2 lower studies. We also have 2 upper studies, but we're only looking at one right now because if you remember, under edit studies, we went into simple moving average 9-period day, and we went to the settings and we actually told it not to show the study. So we're going to click back on that again, and we're going to change this 9. We're going to highlight it. We're going to make it a 50-day simple moving average just by typing in 50, or we can use the plus and minus sign. We're going to hit OK, apply, OK again. So now if you look, this blue line is going back 50 bars, and it's taking an average of the 50 last bars at the closing price of this bar, and it's plotting a line. So as you go back further in time, you can see that this line, because you're taking an average of 50 bars, it doesn't move as much. So there's 2 studies on the top, 2 studies on the bottom. So now that we created the studies, now let's go ahead and let's save this study as a study set. So we're going to go back and edit studies. We're going to come down here to the bottom corner, and you can see there's 2 buttons here. One says Save as Set, one says Remove All. Well, obviously, remove all is if you just want to clear them all off the screen. If you want to get rid of all your studies, you can just remove them all in one button without having to click the X and close each one out by clicking the X. But what we want to do is we want to save them as a set. So we're going to click on Save as a Set, and we're going to call it Test Study. You can call it anything you want. We're going to save it. We're going to hit OK. So now if we go out, everything's still here. Let's go back and edit studies. We're going to hit Remove All. Hit Apply. OK. All our studies are gone. Go back to Edit Studies. And we're going to find our study set on here by looking for Test Studies. Figure out what happened to it. Right here. See where it says Test Study? You're going to highlight that, and you're going to say Use Set. Look here. It put all your studies back on the screen. Now we're going to hit Apply, and we're going to hit OK. So this way, you can go in and you can create different study sets for maybe different time frame of charts or different things you like to look at. And you can save them, and then you can easily just pull them back up without having to recreate, these sets every time. So now that we saved our study set, the next thing I like to do is I like to save my style. So we're going to go into Chart Style Settings. We're going to come all the way down here, and we're going to say Save Style. And we're going to call it Test Style. And we'll say Include Patterns and Study Sets. So check that box right there and hit Save. Now we have our styles. This is considered a style set as well, which includes the background colors, and your cursor settings and everything that we did. So whenever you went into settings and you set all this stuff, when you save that style, you're saving all of that. And we also saved the studies as well. So now that we saved our style set along with our study set, I want to show you another thing you can do. You can also save the style by going into Style, back to Save Style. But this time, don't include the patterns and studies. So just call it Test Style Plain or something. We'll call it Test Style Plain. We're going to hit Save. So if you wanted to, say you want to have different studies, but you wanted to keep the styles the same, then you would be able to just pull up that type of style without the studies, and you could add new studies or different studies as you'd like. So from there, I want to show you how to use the grids. If you come up here in this top right corner, it shows that we have one grid open. One grid is this whole area you're looking at. All this is a grid. And if you open this up, as you start in the top left corner and you highlight these are all the grids you can have. If you wanted to have this many grids, you just click on that, and bam, you got all these grids up. You notice we only got one grid that's actually got styles and what have you on it. We're going to go out of here, and we're just going to go and have 3 grids. So right now, these grids are blank. For one, we haven't actually put a ticker in here. So let's say you wanted to have Microsoft, Apple, and Google. In this ticker, we would add Apple. And if you notice, it does have a default style that comes up when you do this. Over in this ticker, we're going to make this Google. So I just typed it in the box. And as you start to type, you'll notice things will come up. It'll come up as you type the word Goog. Then you just select it if you want. So now, I don't want this style. I want the style I created over here. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to select Style. And come down to Load Style. And let's just go with Test Style Plain for a minute. Now, if you notice, everything is here but our studies. We have the same candlestick chart. We have the corporate actions. We have the background color. Everything that we actually had over here. We don't have any studies. That's because we came in to Styles, Load Styles, and we selected the Style Plain. Now what happens if we do the test style, which was the first one we saved earlier? If you remember over here, the first time we saved our style, we saved it as test style, and we selected for it to save all of our studies and patterns. So now we can bring those same studies and patterns up on our Apple chart that we have on our Microsoft chart if we choose to. So let's go over here to Google, and let's go into Styles. Let's come down to Load Style. On this one, I want to do something a little different. Let's go back to just Test Style Plain. So as of right now, if you notice, let me get that line off of there. So if you notice, this loaded just the plain styles. There's no studies or anything on here. Well, let's say on Google you didn't want to use these studies. You wanted to create new studies. Then you could do that. You could come over here in this menu, go to Studies, and there's Quick Studies, there's Add Studies. You can do it a lot of different ways. I personally just get this back up here. I go right into this Edit Study menu. It's just a personal preference. So let's say in this study, you want to add a simple moving average. Maybe you want a different one. So you're going to start from scratch. We're going to hit Add Selected. This one's a 9. Maybe you want, let's say we wanted a 21-day moving average. And we'll hit OK, Apply. Okay. So if you notice, we created a new study on this chart. We're not using the old studies we had before. We created a new one. This one had a different moving average. We're making this one different. For whatever reason, we might want to choose to do that. And if we didn't want any lower studies, we could just leave it like this. We could actually go in, and if you go under Styles, there's another way to get to your setting. Because if you notice, because these boxes, these grids, are smaller now that you have 3 on your screen, so it doesn't show the gearbox anymore for the settings. But you can still get to it by going down here to Style, coming over and down to the settings. Now you can go into settings and you can change a lot of these. You can change your percent of expansion area. You could get rid of the, if you want to go to equities, you can get rid of the show corporate actions. I mean, you can make this however you want, and then hit apply, hit OK. So now if you notice, there's no more corporate actions. So if you just, you know, you might want a lot of different styles. Go back, you could go to Styles, Save Style. We could type in Test Style Google, include the patterns and study set, hit Save. So now we save this one actually under Google. So if we ever pulled up Google in the future and we wanted this same style, just for Google only, say, you could come in and you could actually have a test style Google. You can name it whatever you want. Pull that back up. Or I could go back in to my styles, load style, and go back to my test style that I had on the very first one, where I brought up the RSI and the TTM squeeze. Now, the other thing I want to show you is you can grab these lower studies, the boxes at the top and the bottom. Just as you run your cursor over it, you'll see how it changes the shape of the cursor. You can expand or contract these however you'd like. So that's how you make 3 grids and save your style. I showed you how to save the studies as a study set and the styles as a style set. And we had 2 types of styles. We had just the style itself without any of the studies. And then we saved the style, and by clicking that box that allowed us to save patterns and studies, we were able to save the whole style with the studies. And again, if you go up here to this grid box, we can go down and hit Save Grid As. So now we can call this Test Grid, or call it Test 3 Grids. Whatever you want to name it. Hit Save. So now, let's say you came in and you created 10 grids. You just got to do the same thing. You got to add your tickers. Then you go in. Well, you don't have a ticker yet. Let's just put a ticker in here. Let me do Netflix. Okay, it goes into the default styles. Again, you just go in, load your style, test style. This was the one that didn't have any of this. I take that back. It does have the studies. What you're going to notice now that this is so much smaller, you don't see the lower studies now. There's just too much in the screen. But you could do that for all of these grids. But the main reason why I want to do is I want to show you how you can go back and come down to, I want to show you how you can come back and you got to find the grid you saved. So in this case, we did test grids. It's going to ask you, it's going to tell you that it's going to be reloaded. Are you sure you want to load the configuration? We'll say OK. So here, it took me right back to where my 3 grids were. And all I did is I went in and I originally Save Grid As, and I named it Test Grids. Then I was able to go back and I was able to get this up again. Now, if you don't want to see, you can have these on separate grids, but let's just say you want to view Google, but you only want it in one grid. And all you have to do is go over to this right corner menu where it says Symbol Actions. Right click on that. Go all the way down to where it says Maximize Cell. Click on Maximize Cell. There you go. Okay. Now here's what's really cool. If you look up here in this corner here, you see how it shows the three grids? And it shows the right grid. The right grid is color red. That's because that's the grid you're looking at. If you hit these arrows, you can jump back and forth to grids. So let's say we want to move over to the center grid. Now we're looking at Apple. Now we want to go over to Microsoft. We click that arrow, and look, the red box is now the far left one. Look up here, Microsoft. We want to go back to Apple, just click it back over. You want to go back to Google, click it back over. Now you want to go back to seeing all three grids. You see this this takes you back. It's like a backup button. It maximizes all your cells. So like when I was showing you earlier when we added more cells below, or more grids, I'm sorry. Well, notice now you don't see your lower, you don't have your lower studies up here because the screen is just not big enough to show everything. You might be able to, even with you minimize out, you can't see it. But that's not a problem because all you have to really do is go in here, hit Maximize Cell, and now you can see it, and you can just go from Cell, and then here's the ones that we haven't created yet. So the three bottom ones, we haven't done anything with it. So that's how you make multiple grids, and that's how you get in and out of multiple grids if you just want to look at one individual grid at a time. That's how you maximize the cells. This is how you arrow back and forth between them. And then if you want to go back here, you go back here. We can go back to the original three we had. We're back here now. Now let's say we have a situation where we want all of these grids to show Microsoft. So you see to the right of this ticker box, there's a 3-color blue box around it. So if you come over here, you see this little symbol link? If you come down here and click blue, notice how it just turned to Microsoft? You're linking this box and this box together. If you come over here, you do the same thing. It went right to Microsoft because you're linking all of these together. If I go up here and I type Apple, the ticker for Apple is AAPL. Look what it did. It synchronized. They're all linked together now. Now you're probably thinking, why would I want 3 charts of Apple? Well, this one's a daily, 1-year daily. Maybe I want this one to be a weekly, I want this one to be a daily, and maybe I want this one to be a 2-hour. So a couple of things you could do. You could either go in to this menu, and you go into Styles, and click Time Frame Setup, and you come down, you change this to a 5-year weekly. Now we're looking at a weekly chart. Each one of these bars represents a week over 5 years. The other way you can do that, let's say we want to take Apple and make it a monthly chart. Then the other thing you could do is you could go in and say maximize the cell. So you're just looking at one cell at a time. And then you can come up here. Remember earlier we showed you how you can come in here and select your time frames. So say you can come down here and you can change this to a monthly chart. Now we're looking at if you come up here in the left corner, it tells you a 5-year monthly chart. It also tells you it's a monthly chart here. So let's arrow back over to this was Apple on a 5-year weekly chart. In the center grid, we just moved over. We made it a 5-year monthly chart. Now let's go to the right grid. This grid is still set for daily. Maybe you want this to be a 2-hour chart. So we go up and we change it to 2 hours. Now we're going to go back and we're going to minimize all the cells. Okay, so now we're looking at Apple with 3 different grids. They're all linked together as far as the ticker, but each one has a different time frame. So we have the weekly, the monthly, and the 2-hour. Say we want that 2-hour to be a daily. We're going to go up here. This was the other way that I showed you earlier that you can get the time frame set up, because you can't see the setup or the time frames anymore when they're this small of a grid. There's not enough room up there for it to display the time frames. You just have to come in through here. This will take you right into your time frames. Go into your 5-year daily, and bam, there you are. So that's how you link your tickers together. And you can do the same thing on your watch list. If you come over to the left side of the screen, you open this up and it brings up your watch list. This is the watch list I created, which I'll show you how to do in a future video. Let's say you want to click on Amazon. Well, let me open this up a little bit. This link has to be linked to the blue. If I make it red, I can click on these all day long, and you notice they don't change up here. But if I make it blue, now they're all linked together with that 3 and that color blue. I can click on Disney, and Disney will come up. Here's Google, Starbucks, Aruco. So that's how that works. So you can link all your charts with your watch list as well. Now, if you wanted to save this grid, these 3 grids, with the link, with all 3 tickers linked together, you should go back up here, go down to Save Grid As. See where it says Test Grids? You don't have to change the name, or you can change the name if you want. If you hit Save, it'll let you know that already has a name exists, and you're going to override it, and you just say OK. So now next time you pull up this grid, it'll have it already linked together. So whatever you have in one box will automatically link it to the other boxes. And as also, I saved it as a weekly chart, monthly chart, and a daily chart. Let's go ahead and create a watch list with a few ticker symbols that we'd like to watch. And then I'll show you how to open an existing watch list that's already available from thinkorswim. So you want to go over here to the left-hand side of your screen. You'll see this little button with an arrow on it. You're going to click on that, and it's going to open up a sidebar. You can also drag the sidebar to make it larger or smaller. Go down here where the plus sign is at the bottom. It says Add Gadget. Select that. Come up to the Select Gadget menu and select Watch List at the bottom right-hand corner. Now, it may default to an existing watch list that's already available by thinkorswim, but we're going to go ahead and open this up. Click on the center button right here, regardless of what the watch list is. And I want you to come all the way down here, and you're going to see at the bottom where it says Create Watch List. You want to click on that, and it's going to bring up this menu called New Watch List menu. Now what we're going to do is we're going to enter the name of our watch list. So we're going to call it whatever you want. I'll call it My Stocks. I'll make it Test. I'm going to call it Test My Stocks. You can name yours whatever you like. We're going to go down here and add a symbol. We're going to add Microsoft. Hit enter. Come down here, we're going to add Apple. Hit enter. Come down here, we're going to add Google. Hit enter. The SPY. ETF. And the QQQ. Okay, and if there's any other symbols, you can add them now. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. And if you open up your watch list now by clicking this left watch list button here, you'll see the arrows pointing down. It'll bring these up. You can always add more to it anytime you want. Just go like that, type it in. Click right here and type it in. See, it just puts it in there. Now what you want to do is you want to link it to your chart. So if your chart, if you come over here where we had this link to blue, you can link this to blue as well. Now every time you select one of these ticker symbols, it loads it in your charts because they're linked together now. See how that works? So now I'm going to show you, we can go ahead and add another watch list by hitting this plus sign at the bottom. Click on watch list. And we're going to go in and click on this center button right here. And this is where your watch lists are going to be saved. So like when you name your watch list, for example, mine was Test My Stocks. See, it's right here under T. They're in alphabetical order. These are all your personal watch lists. And then there's also the public ones that are available. So there's a lot of different things. You can come through here and look at the different ones they got. Percentage gainers, all your ETFs. You got indices, your NASDAQ 100. This is always kind of a cool one. Your new yearly highs, new yearly lows. You want to see where your stronger or weaker stocks are. Then you can come down here. A lot of times I'll look at this one, the S&P 100, S&P 500. So we can open up the S&P 100. That brings up the 100 stocks in the S&P 100, which are a lot of your more popular stocks that are traded the most. And they're all listed here. You just click on the one you want to view the chart on. Don't forget to link it. Then when you select on like UPS here, see UPS comes up over here in the chart. Okay, now I want to show you how to change the settings on your watch list. So if you look over here, currently you got the symbol, which is a ticker symbol. You have the last price, the net change, the bid, and the ask. Next to the ask, we're going to go to this little gearbox and click on that. Hit customize. You can drag this box out of your way. We're going to go ahead and highlight bid, and we're going to remove that item. We're going to highlight ask, and we're going to remove that item. Now we're going to click on percentage change, and we're going to add that item. Now we're going to hit OK. If you look over here now in your watch list, and you can grab this box if you ever need to drag it down, you're going to see now that we have Microsoft is the symbol in the first column. The last price of Microsoft was $200.39. The net change was $2.52 minus, which actually equated to minus 1.24%. Where Apple changed by minus 3.50, which is minus 3.17%. Now, if you go over here at Google, Google is an expensive stock. Its last price was $1,451.09. So the net change seems like a lot. It was $35.95. But if you really look at the percentage of that, it's actually only a minus 2.42%, which is a less percentage than Apple went down. Even though the net change was quite a bit more than Apple, and in reality, the percentage change was less. So that's why sometimes this percentage change is worth looking at. Also, you'll notice on the watch list, the corporate earnings is that little blue icon with the light bulb. If you click on that, it gives you your next earnings date. In this case, Netflix is on 10/20 of 2020 after Market Central Standard Time. The earnings conference call will be on 10/20 of 20 at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time after the market close. It's the same thing that you see over here on your chart, where we had this corporate action added to the chart. This is actually historical. This was back on 7/16 of 2020. This one is a future date. Now, if you notice, right next to it, it gives you the conference call, which you saw that when we clicked on that. That's this red one down at the bottom, the earnings conference call date. And then what these here are showing, the 24 with a little circle, that's saying that these are the ETFs that can be traded 24 hours a day. And then the reason why Microsoft, Apple, and Google have a question mark, because they just had their earnings report the last, 2 weeks ago, because the next earnings call date has not been disclosed. If you also notice to the right of the name of your watch list, there's an up and down arrow. This up and down arrow will actually allow you to go through all your watch lists. So if you go over here, you see how I have test my stocks? If I arrow up or arrow down, it'll start showing these other watch lists that are available. So you just come over here to the right of the name, go up, go down. Well, I hope this learning video, Beginner's Guide to Setting Up Stock Charts in thinkorswim, is a big help for you and will save you a lot of time trying to learn this on your own. In my next video, I'm going to get into a little bit more depth, showing you some different studies and how you can use these studies to help improve your trading. Until then, I wish you well and good trading.